Welcome. Welcome back. And that's what we're starting from the security perspective, how to resolve the security situation across the country, tackling insecurity. And we have joining us virtually a former operative of the DSS, Dr. Seyi Adetayo, who's a publisher, Ian's Intelligence, and Regional Vice President, AC's International West and Central African Region. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Adetayo.
Yeah, good morning.
Also joining us is Alfred Ononugbo, who's a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, CEO of Bell Protocol and Security. Okay, also joining us virtually as well. I guess all our guests are virtual. We have Captain Bish Johnson, a retired United States Army captain and a security consultant. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start off with you, Dr. Adetayo. We'll begin from the economic perspective here. I mean, you heard us talking about the situation. The security situation is there. The challenge is there across the country, in whichever capacity or level you want to look at it. But now we hear of fuel prices going up, adding economic pressure to the security pressure that seems to be. But if you can give us an overview of your perspective of this whole situation.
Well, as it is today, we all know that when we have persistent insecurity, definitely it's going to affect many aspects of our national life, including the economy. And I wasn't surprised when at some point in time that we had acute food shortage and leading to high prices of food. And this has a lot to do, apart from every other factors, the inability of the farmers to be able to go to farm, to plant their crops, and also to access the farms to harvest, and also ability to be able to move those crops down to where they will be sold. And we shouldn't also forget the fact that several villagers had to leave their villages to come to town because they could no longer stay there. So when food costs are affected, those other areas of our economic life will also be affected because everybody will have to jack up prices to be able to meet their capacity to be able to buy food. And also the high cost of petrol. We also know that this also affects several other aspects of our national life. But by and large, I strongly believe that if we're able to address the area of insecurity, and food insecurity is properly, addressed, and there is food sufficiency, quality food available to Nigerians, the amount of pressure on the people will be reduced. If you look at Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need, physiological need for safety, people's ability to also be able to take care of basic needs like food is number one. Once those ones are addressed, that's when they now begin to start thinking of other things. But shelter, where they are going to stay, where they are going to live, if people are running away because of insecurity, is a major issue, and that defeats that layers of hierarchy of needs. If people are afraid, fear, they cannot survive. They cannot even have good access to good food. Those are major issues, and moment those issues are largely addressed, which major focus or more focus on insecurity help us to greatly tackle that, then I believe that the pressure will actually go down, and government will also be settled and be able to divert money currently being put on defense and security into other aspects of our national life, and things will start getting better.
I mean, I want to be able to speak with Captain Johnson because, with the situation we have, especially in the north, I want you to be able to get your thoughts, Captain Johnson, on what's going on. Yesterday, like we said earlier, we heard that our security chiefs and Minister of State for Defense have moved really to Sokoto, which is in the northwest. And of course, everyone is talking about the banditry and the situation going on there. Is this a strategic move? Is this the way to go? Because we have had in the past where at the time it was Borno, all the service chiefs were asked to move to Borno. Did it help? Did it solve the problem? With this move, what kind of outcome from a security person's perspective, what kind of outcome do you think we're going to have as a result of this move?
Okay. Once again, good morning and thank you for having me. Well, we've been on air. I've been on air for over a decade now discussing the same issue of security and insecurity. And what I have come to realize is that most of the times when we try to deal with the issue of insecurity, we tend more to address the symptoms instead of the main causes of insecurity. And then most times also, we tend to apply temporary solutions to, permanent problems. You see, yes, the presence of service chiefs and ministers and all the rest of them may have just very minute impact, and that is momentary impact in terms of affecting the morale of the fighting troops who are in those areas. But that is not going to give us a permanent solution to this, personal permanent solution to these problems. The permanent solution to insecurity problem we have in Nigeria is fundamental, is foundational. And until we go and address those foundational and fundamental issues, we will continue to go in circles as we have been doing in the last decade. Now, in your newspaper review section, you guys talked about the issue of, state policing. Some of us have been, fierce proponents of having state police in this country because security is a local issue. It's very difficult to deal with, insecurity situation in every part of this country from Abuja. We have to decentralize policing and allow local people to deal with their own unique and peculiar security situation. I understand some of the challenges in a country like Nigeria, some of the issues that have been raised in allowing state governors and states to have their own police. But some of those issues, if you lay them side by side to the advantages of having state policing and even local policing, you will see that the advantages of having state policing and local policing will far outweigh some of those challenges that they're talking about. And those challenges they're talking about are not insurmountable. We can put measures in place at the federal level to checkmate some of those challenges that they are talking about. But the truth of the matter is that policing this entire country, this is a very vast country, not just only in terms of population, but as well as in terms of landmass. You have a large portion of our country that is ungoverned. There is no government presence, and there are no security presence. So if something is happening in those areas and the security agencies are alerted, it takes them a while before they get to where these problems are happening. And these are areas that they are supposed to have presence permanently. But because the resources are limited, the federal government alone can't fund security in Nigeria. They don't have sufficient manpower, not enough boots on the ground. There are only about 230,000 military personnel in Nigeria. You have about 271,000 police officers. If civil defense is roughly about 55,000, immigration roughly about 30,000. If you add up all these agencies, you discover that there are less than 1 million. And all of them are not foot soldiers or policemen that are out there in the street, trying to prevent crimes. They are involved in one different kind of duty or the other that takes them away from the field. So we have to go back to the fundamentals. And the fundamental is the structure of our security architecture, to rebuild our security architecture in such a way that they have maximum local presence all across the country. And then one other aspect is that we also have to look at the issue of local government autonomy. We are happy, with the ruling of the Supreme Court about giving local governments autonomy to be able to manage themselves. Because some of all these things also, these insecurities are always emanating from the rural areas. And the reason why they are emanating from the rural areas is not unconnected to what I have previously said. There is very limited presence of governance at the local area. And coupled with the economic situation that you're talking about, it's going to even get worse as people thrive to look for a means of livelihood. They will be resorting to criminal activities to be able to do that. So our federal government, our local government system has to be effective to be able to address the local needs of our people, and also in combining it with our traditional institutions. If you go back to this, back in the days where insecurity was almost non-existent in Nigeria, all these institutions were working effectively. The local government was working effectively. Our traditional institutions were working effectively. So they were working hand in hand with each other to be able to ensure security and governance at the local areas. So these are some of the things that we have to do. This idea of, service chiefs, going to one place, or the service chiefs are not going to be there forever. These are political appointees that must be close to Abuja to be able to take decisions at Abuja level. What we need is more presence of foot soldiers, the actual people who on a daily basis are responsible for ensuring security of lives and property of Nigerian
Let's
citizens.
move now to Dr. Adetayo. He mentioned something right now, which is, the fact that with as the economy gets tighter, as life gets a bit more difficult, we might see an increase in crime and criminality. Is that something that we should be worried about? And what should the government be doing right now to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Is that for me?
It was Dr. Adetayo. We're trying to get him, but I'm hearing that our audio with him is a little poor. So maybe, Captain, if you can weigh in on that while we try to get him back.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, yes. Okay, welcome back. So, did you get the question?
Okay. Yeah, you are asking about my submission in respect to the effect of the economy on insecurity.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it is not rocket science. Even in our various homes, when children are unable to eat, they will be forced outside to go and beg. And those who cannot beg will result into trying to steal. So in order for them to be able to eat, like I said, it's a basic need. Is germane to existence, and people will go to any length for them to be able to eat. And need I also speak on the issue around relocations of the service ship? I think it is very, very important. I have seen I read somewhere yesterday when somebody was querying why should they be sent there. And let me make this very, very clear. Yes, they are political appointees. They are responsible for policies. They are responsible for a whole lot of approvals. When these people are right in Abuja, they have a lot of visitors, with those who are seeking for contracts, those who are there to greet them as friends, and this deny them the ability or prevent them the chance to be able to address basic issues that are lying there on their table. Asking them to go to where things are happening will prevent them from all these social activities, all these merry-go-rounds, greetings from friends, administrative issues around contracts, issues around it helps them to be able to focus. When they are there in Sokoto, as they are there right now, they are closer to the troops. All those issues that the troops have been trying to pass to Abuja that might take some days. Now you see that the needs will be tackled within minutes, not hours, not days. And their focus right there would be, let us solve these things so that we can go back to our normal lives. These are not combatant people. And for you to bring them into the theater, it means that you've taken a whole lot of comfort, a whole lot of the normalcy in their life away from them. And you are bringing them to where the only things they hear are the cries of the families of those that have been killed, the political actors in that state, looking around them, telling them on the needs, all those information. People want to pass information, strategic information, and they are looking for who to connect them to the service chiefs or the ministers. We'll see them right there. The kings, the emirs are there. They don't need to book appointment to see them. If they are right there in Sokoto, they will sit with them on daily basis, sit with the waziris, with the district heads in those communities, and be able to address it. There is no strategic policy or decisions that is better than what the president has directed at this moment. And we need to understand that Nigeria is a peculiar environment, and we need to understand how things work in this country. If we don't get people to where they will get things done, a whole lot of politics, a whole lot of shenanigans will be mixed up with it, and decisions, actions will take a lot of time before they're actually taken.
Yeah, well, Dr. Data, what I really want to, I hear your submission. I want to be able to get from you what you think the government should be doing right now, because as Captain noted, and many people have noted, this tightened noose around the neck of the Nigerian at this point in time could basically result in more crime and criminality, an increase in crime and criminality as life gets tougher. And as a government, what do you think they should be doing right now so that situation doesn't come and then we all start to react to it?
I think this is a catch-22 situation. Either way, things are going to look a little bit bad as it is. And I remember at the beginning of this administration, it was made clear to Nigerians that things are going to be a little bit tough because, one, our dependence on petroleum is likely imported petroleum products into the country. Is really, really affecting us, and that brings us to the issue around subsidy. Now, whether subsidy is removed or subsidy is not removed, there's going to be a whole lot of issues. We've seen fuel scarcity. What fuel scarcity means right now is that the cost of moving goods from the farms, even those that have been harvested, now is going to go up. And by the time it gets to market, the cost price, if you look at the value chain, the prices are going to go up. What that also means is that the numbers of vehicles that will be available in terms of availability of petrol to move goods will also be impacted. It also means that even the people who are supposed to buy the goods, when the goods get to the market, are going to be reduced, because families that can stock their homes with 50,000 every month may not be able to spend 50,000 again, probably 30,000 this time around. So that difference is going to affect the seller. Because if the seller is selling about, let's say, 300,000 in a day, maybe he'll be struggling to sell about 200,000 naira. So at the end of the day, you start seeing even foods that are not available start getting perished in the market. And at times, maybe they'll be forced to just throw it away. And that's going to affect the economy. So we need to look at what we are having right now. And I've said this, for quite a number of times, that the situation we are having, there is no shortcuts. There's no quick way of getting out of this. We need to have a long-time plan and also make it known to Nigerians that it's going to take a long time. And I've been, raising issues around how do we communicate our challenges to our people. We've seen the security agencies doing the talking when agencies like Ministry of Information and News Agency of Nigeria supposed to be the one doing this, having these conversations with Nigerians so that we can understand, and they need to also tell us what we need to do. This aspects, of communication between the people and the government is actually missing, and we need to get that back, because there are lots of things, even things that governments are introducing that Nigerians are supposed to benefit or know how to benefit them.
My apologies, Dr. Lito. Perhaps the challenge is even that of trust. Whether or not that trust quotient is there is another thing altogether, because on the one hand, there is the information. On the other hand, is whether or not people believe that information, because almost every time such security breakdowns occur, we hear comments from government at various levels, federal and state, and various other people, including opposition parties, also have a thing or two to say. But Captain Johnson, I'd like to stick with the way Nelta began this conversation talking about the economy, and we have spaded, the issues. One of the things that so many people have said is responsible for insecurity in our country is poverty. Now, on the Channels TV website, our lead story right now is petrol price hike will worsen workers' poverty, says TUC. Now, in terms of this insecurity, of course, once people are, unable to eat, people are poor, the needs of people is going to drive them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. So here we are now looking at poverty in the face in the light of this petrol price hike, which naturally reverberates across various other parts and aspects of our lives. Now, do you think this insecurity we're talking about could have been avoided? Because I have heard the police say from time to time that most of the crime committed in our country, they are what they call economic crimes. Could this have been avoided? Could we have nipped this in the bud in the past few days, weeks, months, or years? What can we do now?
Okay. I thank you very much for that question. But before I go straight to your question, I want to address one issue. You see, the presence of the service chiefs in Sokoto is ornamental, it's not functional. It's only symbolic and it's temporary. We're talking about solving our security situation problems permanently so that we won't be talking about all this insecurity every time. The service chiefs are never going to be in Sokoto forever. And that is why you have layers of change of personnel and manpower and capacity. There are brigade commanders. There are, those are the battalion levels. There are those at the company levels, at the platoon levels. There are tactical officers. And the same thing applies to the police. There are zonal AIDs, police commissioners, divisional police officers. All these people are capacity that are supposed to be utilized in dealing with the problem. As the service chiefs are in Sokoto, other parts of the country are breaking loose. They're supposed to be in a centralized command where they're having, a general overview of what is happening in the entire country. And so they can't be in Sokoto forever. At some point, they will have to come back to Abuja, and they will not leave the issue of, taking care of insecurity in these areas to the manpower that they have deployed to those areas. So that being said, let me come to your question. You see, economy and insecurity are intrinsically connected, right? And that is not to say that you don't have insecurity in the richest countries in the world. You do have insecurity also, but minimum, because you can't achieve absolute security in any society. What you can achieve is a relative security, which is security that is sufficient for people to be able to go about their normal daily lives without causing or adversely affecting the economy of that country so bad. So security and economy are connected. They are very, very related. The economic insecurity you're talking about is something that we could have achieved, but it's not a matter of, past 1 month or past 1 year or past 2 years. It's something that we ought to have laid the foundation long time ago, maybe a decade ago, or even more than a decade ago. In my opening comment, I stated that the structures and the foundation of our security architecture is flawed, is fundamentally flawed, because security is a local issue. It's something that the people have to deal with by themselves. So the centralization of our security architecture does not give that flexibility and adaptability for people at the local levels to respond to that specific and the unique security situations. And that is where we are getting it wrong. We have to decentralize security in such a way that at the local government level, at community levels, they will be able to deal with their specific security challenge. The security challenge that we face in Ohajebema in Imo State is different from the security challenge that is being faced in some other local government area in either Kebbi or Borno or somewhere in Ekiti or Ondo. And that is why we have to decentralize security to the local level. And the way of doing it is by ensuring that we have that flexibility in terms of security architecture. And I have also said something about our traditional institutions. When we were younger, and when the traditional institutions have not been balkanized and bastardized and weakened, we barely have the level of insecurity we have in Nigeria right now, because the traditional rulers and traditional institutions were very fully involved in the security of their various kingdoms. There is nobody who will identify a stranger in a community better than that community.
But
If somebody comes into
those religious leaders are still there. My apologies for butting in, Captain Johnson. Those religious leaders are still there. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, every local government in the country, all 774 listed in the Constitution, have their own security councils. They still have those security councils. I don't know how efficacious they are, but in those security councils are traditional rulers. We understand that DSS officials from, the federal government are also part of it. The DPO in that local government is also part of it. So I find it, I'm abashed about the fact that we hear about these things only after the fact. And let me even take that to, Dr. Adetayo, because
let me just real quick, let me just address this issue that you just pointed out right now.
Okay.
You see, all of the things that you said are still there, but they're still there in principle. Local government areas are not being funded. The governors have hijacked the local government administrations and hijacked their funding. And so security will cost money. And all of these security agencies that we have are not being adequately.
Sometimes, Captain Johnson, sometimes the first step in this insecurity issue.
So the resources.
Just a second. Sometimes the first step is not even about money. The first step is seeing something and saying something. There's a village. Just a second. In a particular community in this country, there is a signpost there. Remember the son of whom you are. And in that community, once you get in there and they see you as a stranger, someone just accosts you and calls you, whose child are you? In that community, if you can't name the name of your father or the house or locality from which you come, they know you are a security threat. So those people are still there and those systems are still there. Seeing something and saying something doesn't have to cost money, does it? Okay, well, let me go to Dr. Adetayo on this particular matter. Dr. Adetayo, you from time to time have to dish out, intelligence information just for people to be aware. But that is one thing. On the other hand, is this conversation that I'm having with Captain Johnson. What's your take?
Okay, so I appreciate the position of Captain Johnson on most of these issues, but you see, some of these things are very organic. And if you've not worked at that level of the Nigerian society, you may not be able to understand some of the things that are happening at the grassroots level. And Ayo, you are very much right. You're on point about, all these committees at the local government level. They are there and they are supposed to provide those solutions. And I can remember when I was in charge of a local government in the Southeast, we had similar committee, and we discovered that even the people that were supposed to be the one to help solve the security problem there were the ones that were creating the problem. And because the local government chairman, who was an administrator at that time, a civil servant that was appointed by the governor to be in charge of local government, was ready to do her work at that time. And then she called a meeting and said, you know what, we have to address issues where in one community, the community is divided into two, and we are burning, setting ablaze the properties of that same community. And the matter was addressed. The security agents, head of the security agency in that local government, the governor had to remove the person, and certain things has to be put in place. And the problem that had been on for 7 years came to an end because somebody was ready to do something at that level. If this can be done in all local governments where we have those that are responsible, all those stakeholders at each of the local government levels, and also the people understand the responsibility of those people, what they should expect from those people to do, they will know who to approach, how to approach them, and when to approach them. The issue of Nigeria here, we seem to always want to blame the federal government or the security agencies at the highest level to be the problem. The Inspector General of Police cannot see from Abuja, and that's why I support the state police, cannot see from Abuja all the things that the DPOs are doing at that level. There are fantastic DPOs that have been doing wonderfully well, and that many of them have been, some of them are yet to be recognized for what they're doing, but there are few ones that all it is in their mind is to profit from the problems in that area, and the IG will not know except the mechanism for getting this thing to the right level, are understood by the people. But people are getting wiser every day. And that's why I support the state police, that when we have that structure at that level, escalations will be better. People will even be able to, and that's why I'm concerned about how do we get people enlightened? How do we get people informed? The agencies of government that are responsible, or that should be responsible for that, should be funded. If funding is their problem, let them go. Growing up, we used to see Voice of Nigeria, Obi-Vans moving around, talking to people. We no longer see that. And in these days of social media, I'm explaining that social media is very cheap. That any government agencies can take advantage of, dishing out public advocacy, messages that people will understand that when you are going through this is how we only see that when it comes to health issues. That we see from Ministry of Health trying to provide health information. Outside that, we don't see any others. And these are very germane. Coming back to the way Nigeria works is different from other countries. It's different. Approvals to get things done follows chains of approvals, chains of command. You see people, we've been seeing complaints coming from the theater before. I think it has greatly reduced, where they will complain of a lack of this, lack of that. If you are complaining right now is that lack of this, the person who is supposed to deploy it is right there at the theater. Mr. Man, go and lead at the front. Go and get this thing resolved. If you have not been giving them the right equipment, you yourself, you are now there now. If you feel that you will be safe without the right equipment, then stay there. Nobody will tell that service chief the need for that man to bring in more equipment and to solve it. Yes, it is not meant to resolve the whole problem in Nigeria, but that particular problem in that particular place at that particular point in time should be solved. And they'll come back and solve that problem.
Seconds, if you can. You and Bishop Johnson can weigh in on this in 30 seconds each. Knowing that in the last, all that while we've known that the different state governments provide equipment for the police in their different states, the different police commands in their states, providing vehicles and some kind of support in one way or the other. Now, the National Economic Council yesterday rose from a meeting giving a deadline for a state police report. In 30 seconds, what would you think should be done, and how would that help to end this insecurity challenge across the country? Both of you weigh in on this, because we need to go in 2 minutes.
Okay, let me come in here. The issue that you raised, look, I don't know if you are aware that in most of the states, there are no local government structures in place, because there are no local government chairmen. They are ruling through sole administrators and all that stuff. You don't have councillors. The reason why Nigeria was structured the way it's structured is so that they can get closer to the people at the lowest level. That's why they have councillors. But when you have a situation where they're using all these sole administrators and stuff like that, and they don't even fund them, you're not going to have those councillors. You're only going to have one person, which is the sole administrator, and that is why it hasn't worked. We've talked about the way Nigeria works. If the way Nigeria works is working well for us, I don't think that we'll be having this discussion. The reason why we're having this discussion is because that the way that Nigeria is working now is not working to the benefit of the Nigerian people, and we're looking for a way to, rejig the situation, the system, so that it can work.
Okay.
If we continue to do the same thing that we have been doing over and over again and expect a different outcome, that is the definition of insanity.
All right, thank you,
Mr. Why we have to reform. Mr. Johnson. We have to rejig.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Let's hear from Dr. Adetayo. In 30 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you. So before I give my closing remark, I just want to correct the description. I am not the current regional vice president. I am former regional vice president, so that's a current occupant of the position.
So you have 20 seconds.
So having said that, mine is very simple. It is our responsibility, everyone in Nigeria, to help the government to keep us safe. Whatever we can do, we should not stop doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in this morning. We had Dr. Sheyi Adetayo, who is a security consultant and a former regional vice president of ISIS. Thank you for joining us. Also here we had Captain Bish Johnson, retired Captain U.S. Army. Both of them joined us virtually. Thank you, gentlemen.
Aninetto, I would like to engage Sheyi pretty much more on this conversation outside the network.
Both of you will communicate with yourselves there. Thank you once again.